Looks like we already have some people here. Welcome to the stream. If you do have a YouTube channel, you should be able to chat in the side here. If you want to tell me who you are, you can go ahead and I can say hi, get an idea of who's here. I know we have some family members who are going to come to this who probably don't have a YouTube account and won't be able to comment, but I'm glad to have you here anyway. I think we'll probably wait another like 5 to 10 minutes to start the reading just to see who comes in. Oh, hi, hi, Grandpa and Annadette. Good to have you here. I'm very excited that I get to share this story with you guys. Yeah, like I was saying, we'll probably wait about 10 minutes, maybe 15 to see, who ends up coming out. And, I don't want to start the story before anyone's ready. Scott has arrived. Scott, try not to say anything problematic and get me canceled. Glad to have you here. Oh, Susie, hi. Good to have you here. Susie is one of my friends from the internet. Very excited to have I have a couple internet friends who are going to be here. I know a couple of my Star Trek friends said they were going to come to this one. They're going to be doing each other's nails while listening, so that'll be a lot of fun. Carolyn is here too. Hi, Carolyn. I don't know if Scott told you that he's married to Jesse in Lemon Squares in All Dimensions yet or not. But yeah, no. Hello to Scott and Carolyn. Yeah, no. Yeah, just so everyone knows what I'm talking about with Lemon Squares in All Dimensions, that is my book about the robot housewife who gets arrested for murder. Comes out March of next year. And there is a minor character who gets mentioned a couple times who's a prosecutor who's like defining personality trait as being on the wrong side of history. So naturally, I named him after Scott, and I named his wife Jessie after Scott's friend Jessie. So yeah, I didn't know if Scott had told Carolyn that or not. Sorry, I'm like a minute behind. Oh, don't worry about it, Susie. Like I said, we're probably even going to start the reading for another 10 minutes. Like you're totally fine. Hello, Grandma and Grandpa. Yeah, Scott saying hi. Yeah. Yeah, no, we're all chilling right now. If anyone has questions they want me to answer, you can go ahead and ask and we can just, chat for a while. It's all good. Whatever works. What emoji is that? Scott used some kind of like crying emoji, but it's like chewed bubblegum pink. Like, I don't even know what that thing is. I mean, I guess it's just a face, but it's like outlined in such a peculiar way that, like, with my terrible eyesight, it just looks appalling. Yeah, Scott's throwing more of those things in the chat. That's crazy. I guess I could just talk a little generally about, what this project is and how I got into it. Basically, Hope is Not Passive is a benefit anthology that's raising money for Kids in Need of Defense, which is an organization that, among other things, they help kids that are separated from their parents at the border and provides legal aid. So, I mean, understandably, this is something that it means a lot to me to be part of the project like this because it's such a valuable cause. And especially, being Latina, like I know a lot of people within the community that have been directly impacted by this a lot more than I have. And especially in the past year, being interviewed on places like Espacio Latino and Radio Latina and being part of a Latino book club here in town, like it is just really, I mean, opened my eyes in a way that they weren't before to just how important, just how important immigration justice is and how much is going on that, on a daily basis that we're just simply not aware of. Hi, Solaris. It's Pal and Charlie. Hi, Pal and Charlie. These are my Star Trek friends I mentioned. So, yeah, Kids in Need of Defense is a very, important organization to support. So I'm really glad that the proceeds from this anthology go to that. And as for how I happened to find it, the editor of this anthology, her name is on the title there, Megan Friedman. Megan Friedman is an alum of Western Colorado University's publishing master's program, which I am as well. We weren't in the same cohort. I don't think any of our years overlapped or anything, but because she was an alum, she shared the call for submissions in the alumni Facebook group that we're both members of. So I saw it there and, like I said, the immigration justice angle of it really appealed to me. And also the fact that it was speculative fictions, sci-fi, fantasy, horror. Those are the genres that I prefer to write in. So it seemed like a match made in heaven. And I just knew that even if I wasn't going to be a featured author in this anthology, it was definitely something I was going to want to share to people and promote. So it was something I was really looking into with interest. And I'm really glad that it worked out and that I did get to be a part of this project. It is not easy for me to write short stories because I am very I don't know. My ideas are very, as anyone who has ever heard me talk can attest, I have very complicated ideas. There's a lot going on in like my novels, just the ideas that I have. So trying to condense that into, the word count I think for this one topped out at like 6,000 words, but usually short stories, I mean they're around like 5,000. Three Most anthologies that I've sort of looked at and thought about submitting are between like 3.5K and 5K, which is really hard to get, at least for me. It's hard to get a lot of complexity into a text of that length. And because of that, like I don't prefer it. I prefer having the freedom of a novel to really explore in the depth and detail that I want to. But it does make writing a short story a unique challenge in that you do have that constraint and you have to think so much more intentionally about every single word, like right from the beginning. Like, obviously, when you're editing, you have to go back and really, on a sentence by sentence level, ask yourself, what am I doing with each word to pull the reader forward? What am I communicating here? What am I explaining? And, in the editing process, if you find a word that isn't, pulling the reader along, that isn't serving its purpose, you cut it. But with a short story, I mean, you have to go into it with the mindset that I'm probably trying to fit too much idea into too few words. So, every single thing that I do, I'm going to think twice about whether I'm even going to put this word on the page in the first place. And then, you write everything. And of course, it's over the word count anyway. So you have to still go back through and then you have to tighten up the prose even more. And the trick for editing for short stories, that at least in my experience, is that I prefer not to cut scenes because usually, like I said, with the level of complexity and like plot that I'm trying to fit into the word count, like I can't remove a scene. Like all the scenes already have a purpose. So if I'm going to make a story shorter, I just have to cut words. I have to rephrase things. So it's really more about like line editing than big picture editing in terms of, how I get something together. How I get something together in terms of short stories. Oh, hi, it is BF. John, I thought you had class today. I mean, it's good to have you here. Thank you for making it to both days. Yeah. Okay. I mean, we have a lot of people here already. 10 people. Wow. Hmm. Let's see. It doesn't look like I've missed any class ended early. Well, there you go. There you go. Yeah. Well, I think I'll give it another couple minutes. I think we can start at 4:40. I'll get into the reading. Skipping class for this is always ethical. So true, Susie. So true. Skipping class is always ethical on such a beautiful day. I mean, for those of you who aren't in Alaska right now, it is gorgeous. It is so warm outside. I actually I was wearing a different dress before just for the day to day and it was long sleeved. It was too hot. I changed into my live stream outfit early because it was so hot outside. Um Oh my god, hi! Memoria's here. Memoria is another one of my friends from the internet. You got off work? That's awesome. Wow, great turnout today. Scott, I skipped the birth of my child for this. You would skip the birth of your child anyway because you're passing on the generational trauma of dad not being there for your birth. That is a true story. Dad wasn't there for his birth. Your 3 days of summer in AK have arrived. They really have. Yeah. No, this is a very beautiful day of summer, and I'm glad it worked out that way. It's so nice right now. And we have to enjoy it while we last while it lasts because we will not have this forever. Yeah. But yeah, no, I am very excited to get to share this story here. Okay, Scott's sending a bunch of fish emoji. That's funny because this story, I mean, you'll see when we get into it, but there was a lot of like ocean themes and imagery around in this. And that's why I have the decor back here. I have a bunch of seashells. Now, I'm a total poser. I did not like collect these on a beach. Like I've just gotten these over the years. Usually at the Saturday market, there's like a booth that sells them and I love the funky like seashells. I like the pink and purple ones. There's like this barnacle one that I really like. It's so cute. It's like a little bubble. And then these glass buoy float things. I have a few of these, but I picked the best one to put next to the book. So there you have it. And like I said, you will understand why we have the ocean themes here. And yeah, and I think I have something else I want to talk about in regard to the ocean things, but I think I'll leave it until after because it'll make more sense once we've read it and you've especially seen the poem that gets brought up in the middle, towards the end, actually. every time I bring up that poem, I say in the middle. It's not in the middle. It's literally like second to last page is when the poem starts. I don't know why I keep saying that. I mean, I said it in yesterday's live stream. I think I said it this morning. One of the authors on this anthology is Jolie Black, who is she's they are a YouTuber. They are a YouTuber and an academic, and they did a video a year ago that I really enjoyed, covering an incident that went down on Book Talk, which is book TikTok, regarding an author who was autistic and was sort of consistently over promising things and then reneging on that and sort of accidentally scamming their audience. And Jolie approached the situation with a lot of nuance and empathy and intelligence as someone who is autistic themselves. So I always recommend that video to people, and I have been for the past year. So seeing their name on the list of anthology authors, I mean, it was so exciting. And they wanted to put something together about the anthology on their channel. So they're interviewing a bunch of the other anthology authors, and they did mine this morning. I was the first one, I think, because the Alaska to UK time difference is so insane. And I feel like the interview was all right. I mean, like I said, I keep saying that poem is in the middle and it's not. And I don't know. The penultimate middle. Yes. Oh my God, Taylor, are you back? Oh, it's the same story. You're going to hear the same thing again. Hopefully I don't mess up in the same places I messed up last time. But yes, Susie said pretty about the seashells. Yeah, yeah. All right, we're at 4:40. We got 10 people. I think we can start the story, and hopefully, if anyone comes in late, they don't get lost. So let me find it. You think I'd get better at just finding it on the first try now that I've had to do it a few times? I think it's, yeah, 161. That's where it starts. All right. So, ghosts and futures. Tongues, sentience, work. The benefactors gave us everything. Never forget, my dearest begotten, pale Cirrus tells us tenderly in his high, tremulous voice, what an honor it was to be uplifted. He cups his hands as if holding water. They shake. His fingers are swollen, blue tinged in the ghostly light of the chapel. Around us rise honeycombed white walls. Cirrus once preached of creatures called birds whose bones were hollow. They could, for a time, become lighter than air. All the benefactors build is forged in the image of the bleached, delicate lattices within those ancient skeletons. The birds are gone, but the benefactors remain, rightful heirs to the sky. I know this life was no one's destiny. Their bodies bear the strain of an unnatural existence, as do ours. Necessity drove the benefactors here to floating, oxygen-starved cities high above the wreckage of centuries past. When the clouds shift, we see the rustling bones of skyscrapers, seas of fire within oceans where oil spilled centuries ago, towers of immortal detritus. Those always puzzled me. If the benefactors created things that could not rot, why do their bodies still decay? It is not a question one can ask, even a feeble, smiling Cirrus. He only offers answers about the cloud layers of the afterlife. The sermon weighs on. We begotten keep our heads low. Chilly mist curls over dozens of bare feet, obscuring webbed toes and flaking scales. The harsh mouth breathing of my cohort vibrates through the fins on either side of my neck. We struggle always against suffocation, but it is not just oxygen we lack. It is moisture. Our bodies remember the sea, even if our minds cannot. My ancestors plucked yours from fetid tide pools, Cirrus says, beaming, from an existence. I dare not say lives, dear ones, for there is no life without a soul, as meaningless as the meanderings of an amoeba. His enthusiasm outpaces his lungs. He is breathless before the end of the sentence. I hear the word amoeba only because I, an elder, stand in the front row. Yet Cirrus wheezes on. We cultured you in every sense. Yes, we made you, as our father made us. How lucky you are that we did. He cast his spindly arms wide. We wouldn'tly do the same, embracing our gratitude. Cirrus has paused before a grand gap in the wall. The view behind him is pearlescent, a vast cumulonimbus inflamed by the sun. Oh, to love the clouds! How beautiful they must be if they are not where your kind is sent to die. But the water harvest is rarely without casualties. A hiss from behind shivers up my fins. Nuele too sees the cloud. His thoughts are anything but wistful. The call for communion seems like it will never come, but it does. I lead the begotten single file to the altar, where we lick bitter wine from Cyrus's fingertips. From the corner of my eye, I see Nuele come forward. He lowers his head reluctantly, the frayed edges of his turquoise fins curling inward. Cyrus pats him on the head. The youth shudders with rage. Because it is Sunday, we have 1 hour to spend as we like, should the priest permit it. Cyrus always does, but there is trouble in the air, and it takes the shape of a moisture-laden cumulonimbus within harvesting range. Just as I dreaded, before anyone can step out of the chapel, the overseer bursts inside. Overseer Ave bleeds within his eyes. The affliction is not uncommon among the benefactors. Some have red splotched eyes, just as some have hair above their lips or jewels in their ears. But Overseer Ave's eyes burn. It turns the blood incandescent. Were he not taller and stronger than any of us, we would fear him even so. Shuttle's here, he snarls. A frown creases Cyrus's placid face. You're not due for another hour. The overseer glowers at the old man. Hasi says he wants these mouth breathers on that there cloud. He thrusts a thick finger toward the cumulonimbus, and he wants them there now. Take them then, says Cyrus coolly. In the meantime, I'll speak to the Hasi myself. Surely he understands the sanctity of the Lord's day. You'll get your rest hour later, dear begotten, he promises as we shuffle out. A coughing fit strikes, bending him double. When he straightens, he adds faintly, what poor sort of gods would we be, to create souls and fail to nurture them? What poor sort of gods? I lost my mother in a cumulonimbus. Rarely do we know our mothers, but I was blessed. I was held by her, loved by her. I even shared her name, Spera. Beyond that, one never would have guessed we were related. She was vivid green while I am pale. The fins of my neck and arms are rounded, and hers were flared. Her bright, bulbous eyes were slit vertically. I used to mourn that mine were different, getting so sad that my membranes would flicker. Then my mother told me horizontal slits were a rare gift, far-seeing, a sign that I was meant to be wise. My far-seeing eyes still ache when I close them. Lightning flashes, a tearing streak of brilliance. Hers was not the first lightning death I witnessed. It was far from the last. It is still the one I return to every time I hear thunder roll beyond the thin, shivering walls of a shuttle. I force myself into the present. Do not think of death. Think of my neck itches. That will do. I focus on my skin-tight harvest suit, cataloging every place it pinches, the sensitive spot on my neck, the webs between my fingers and toes, my arms, where my scales are falling out in patches. By contrast, the bare strips on either side of my torso feel cool, but that does nothing to lighten my spirit. My moisture sacs are exposed. Soon they will be tender, engorged. Once my body has done the work of purging toxins, the overseer will plunge a needle through the thin skin, extracting every ounce of precious water. The jump hatch grates open. Icy wind shears through my fins. My nicotinating membranes slide into place, and my view of the others blurs. Dim splotches of blue and green above dark gray harvest suits, faceless. But I can make out bodies pressed against the walls as far as possible from the howling chasm in the shuttle's belly. There is no avoiding what comes next, but in every shuttle there is the same moment of silent complicity. We will go if we are ordered. We will go if we are threatened or pushed. We will not go simply because it is inevitable. We will not give the overseer that peace. Overseer Ave rages about how it's always the same, how we mindless mouth breathers wouldn't know how to put one foot in front of the other if we weren't told. Red-tinged spittle flies from his mouth when he shouts, if one of you doesn't jump in the next 5 seconds, I'll blow you all to hell. He's holding a thin silver box, a remote. I cannot make out individual buttons through my membranes, but I know there are many. One of them will, in fact, kill us all. The overseer can send an electric pulse through our harvest suits, stopping our hearts. You'll die, he says with relish, but not before you feel it frying every inch of your slimy, rotten little skins. His face hardens. 5. No one moves. 4. Rustling. Has someone stepped forward? 3. I remember Nuele seething in the chapel. I hope it is not him, or that if it is, he does not act rashly. 2. The remote gleams. I see a weapon to be feared. Brighter, more desperate eyes might see an opportunity. Does Nuele? Will he take it? 1. A deep blue blur moves toward the jump hatch. Not Nuele, then. My neck fins flatten with relief. With effort, I retract my membranes, trying to see who it is. I do not recognize her, which means she must be the one Siahel and Vauto were traded for. 2 elders, useful perhaps for tending infants, exchanged for one shining youth, a bargain the Hasi must be proud of. Few of my generation remain. Fewer still retain the quickness of mind Valta had, or sky blue Sia Hell's love of life. Valta was like a sister to me, and Sia Hell, something more. She made me grateful we slept on the floor and not in cots, as we did at the hacienda where I was hatched. No mattress could have offered as much comfort as Sia Hell's arms around my back, her forehead tucked under my chin. I push the thought aside. If I dwell on Sia Hel and Vauta's absence, I may resent this girl's presence. I will bear her no bitterness. She would not have chosen this either. She is only an adolescent. While most of her scales are a rich, lustrous blue, a few translucent baby scales still speckle her flat face. Though her coloring is darker, we favor each other. The fins on her neck are neatly rounded, and her eyes are slit horizontally. I retreat behind my eyelids. I can't bear it, those familiar features on this unknown girl child. So many eggs were stolen from me over the years. But keeping my eyes closed is impossible. What if she is my daughter? What if I never see her again? I take another peek. I go, she says deliberately. Each generation adapts to mouth speech better than the last. Tongue clumsy as I am, those two short words would be a struggle. Overseer Ave points his remote at the girl. Then jump, he barks. She does not jump the way we are taught. Instead, she falls back, arms outspread, eyes closed. The slick wings of her harvest suit fan out from the undersides of her arms, and the wind whisks her away. Nuele throws himself after her, diving through the hatch head first. Though I am usually one of the last to leap, especially into a cumulonimbus, I surge forward. The sooner I get out there, the sooner I can find that girl and learn her name. I jump properly, feet first, arms tucked close until I am through the hatch. A maelstrom tears at me through all sides. Thunder shudders through my bones. Hail chips off the oldest, weakest scales on my face. I am not only in the heart of the storm, I am in its blood and I am drowning. And yet, I cast my wings aside and my neck fins flutter in exultation. Oh, blessed moisture! Distant lightning arcs overhead, but there is an instant where even that cannot frighten me. Finally, I can breathe. I blink over and over for the sheer joy of feeling my eyelids glide over properly moistened eyes. My sight is sharper than ever. Even through hail and cloud cover, I can see the blunt shape of the shuttle, the soaring forms of the other begotten. Most remain more or less at my altitude. If we stray too far from the shuttle, the wings on our harvest suit automatically retract. At first, I glide in sweeping circles, savoring the sensation of flight. It gets harder as my moisture sacs fill, weighing me down. With thin old arms like mine, it is not easy to regain lost altitude, and the wind and hail are no allies. I bat my wings hard, taking shelter under the shuttle. Though I wanted to seek out the newcomer, this is no time for fancy flying. The youths could not disagree more. Above, I spot several engaged in some kind of chasing game that involves slapping each other on the moisture sacs. Before I can determine if the girl is among them, Dwelle shoots past me. He goes high, higher than is wise, but not high enough to escape the cloud. Is that his goal? Does he dream of it? He must. And as I flap my tired arms and bow my tired head, I imagine his dream coming true for both of us. How bright it must be beyond the clouds, how strong one must be to get there. Just when I think Nuele has gone too far and his wings will retract, he corkscrews into a steep dive. More acrobatics, I assume. Then I spot what Nuele is chasing, a small dark shape hurtling downward. My webs tightened involuntarily, clenching my fingers and toes. Someone is falling out of the sky. This is a more common death than lightning. A wicked wind can push you out of shuttle range in an instant. All you can do is hope a countercurrent pushes you back, that or plummet. It could also be another elder, weaker than I, unable to keep their arms extended well enough to glide. Daring Nuele, he shreds through the sky and snatches up the fallen figure. I recognize the slack, faded green face of Dolocanto, the second oldest member of our cohort. Nuele has saved him, for a moment, but the winds are fierce. With the added weight of Dolocanto's limp body in his arms and both of their moisture sacs swelling by the second, I shudder, then spread my wings. Stinging hail pummels me as I emerge from the shuttle's shadow. Blood trickles down my temples, more scales pried loose. I fly as fast as I can, but they are falling faster. I may not get there in time. I may not be much help if I do. Still, someone swoops past me, swift as the wind. Only when they reach Nuele do they slow down enough for me to see their face. It is the girl again. She scoops up Dolocanto's dangling legs, and Nuele is able to stall their descent. Together they rise, safe. I am so relieved my flight falters, but I quickly catch myself and glide toward the trio. As I approach, I hear Nuele's neck fins flapping violently. With so much water in the air, even the lightest flutter would reverberate well. There was no need to shout. Then again, wind warps even the strongest voice, and it is better to be loud than unheard. Let go! I can do this on my own. No, you can't, the girl returns mildly. She may be as angry as Nuele. It is hard to tell. Rounded fins produce gentler vibrations. Neither could I. We need each other. I don't need anyone, Nuele snaps. Dolocanto's fins twitch. His are flared like Nuele's, but much narrower, giving his words a note of whininess. Just drop me. Just let me die. Shut up, old man. Nuele, I admonish, now near enough to join the conversation, do not disrespect your elders. Nuele is so annoyed he groans through his mouth like a benefactor, but he does not talk back, not to me. I like to think it is because I have never lost my patience with him, and he trusts me. Perhaps I am simply no fun to argue with. Either way, my luck with Nuele is better than most. I turn toward the girl. Do you two need help? She smiles. Our faces, stiff, small-mouthed, are not meant for smiling, but we do. We have him now, but stay close if you can, she says. That way, if the wind catches us, we should head for the shuttle. A prudent suggestion, though I suspect Nuele cut in for the sake of interrupting her more than anything. The girl accedes without argument, and we make our way back to the shuttle. The hail lightens, so does the wind. The flight is almost peaceful. I would enjoy it, if not for my aching sides where the skin on my moisture sacs grow tight. We are not long into the harvest period, but my sacs, shrunken with age, are already nearing capacity. Meanwhile, Nuele and the girl are not yet half full. Dolocanto suffers worse than I, or else thinks his suffering will be lessened if he complains of it more. I'm going to burst, he groans. My sacs are burning. They're too full. You'd burn worse if your sacs weren't full, Nuele retorts, which silences Dolocanto. We all know the penalty for failing to meet quota. What do you think it looked like if a benefactor got burned alive? He goes on cruelly. What does it sound like? You wouldn't hear scales crisping up and cracking. You wouldn't. Stop, the girl pleads. They didn't stop when it was my brother. Nuele is so furious he trembles. They burned him alive, and it wasn't even for something he did. He had plans for an uprising. He was going to kill the benefactors and set us free, but he never got the chance because hail punctured one of his moisture sacs and he didn't make quota, and they took him and Nuele's fins droop. The girl leans forward and lightly touches a fin to his. Nuele releases a shuddering breath through his mouth, then his panting eases. Don't touch me. For once, Nuele sounds subdued. Who are you, anyway? My name is Evadia. Nuele, he says, giving her a long, appraising look. There were people at my old hacienda who talked about rebelling too, like your brother. Nuele's eyes gleam. What was their plan? A wistful flutter from Evadia. We would be in the shuttle, like usual, and the overseer would die. How? Nuele demands. He was very old. We knew his time would come sooner or later. Why not in the shuttle? Nuele hisses. That's no plan, leaving everything to chance. He would die, and we would be free. Free to go where? Dolocanto's face sags with resignation. The seas are all poisoned. He is correct. The water we gather from clouds, though far from pure, is filtered by nature before it reaches us. The heaviest toxins remain in the oceans below, toxins our body's purification systems were never meant to process. I was told, said Zebedia, her earnest, baby-scaled face sparkling in the rain, about a place called the Water Moon. There's no water on the moon, Nuele scoffs. Not our moon, says Evadia patiently. The water moon circles a world the benefactors haven't touched. Its entire surface is a never-ending ocean. Her fins wave with a dreamy, almost mesmeric languor. We would soar beyond the clouds through the star sea of night, and the water moon would welcome us. When sunlight strikes, the whole moon glimmers like a pearl. The waters are pure and sweet. We'll be able to breathe, to fly without wings. On the water moon, we'll finally be free. How beautiful. My words are so soft, I am unsure Evadia hears them, but perhaps it is for the best. My spirit aches, a lovely ache, at the young dreamer's words, and I do not know if I am strong enough to tell her why. Could you be my daughter? I hardly know which answer would hurt more. Dolocanto sighs aloud. The closest any of us will get to that water moon is heaven, if they take our kind. That's the story the benefactors tell us, says Evadia. What makes mine less true? Nuele's eyes harden. Stories aren't enough. We have to fight. Cirrus manages to get us that rest hour after all. Our sunset feeding period is extended from its usual 15 minutes, and instead of the meal being brought to our quarters, it is presented to us in the rock garden behind the chapel. The smoldering black slag heap looks particularly unappetizing in contrast to the pristine white sand. We are all so hungry after the harvest that we salivate anyway. The acid glands under my tongue swell in anticipation. Cirrus greets us with a proud smile. The Lord has provided, my begotten. Eat and rejoice. The young shoot past him, flinging themselves upon their feed. They tear into the dark refuse with relish, ripping out chunks with their needle-like teeth. I remember when I could eat like that. Now I have to soften the slag with spit before biting into it, lest I lose the few teeth I have left. Dolocanto shuffles up to the priest. The dying light seems to catch in every crevice of his face, making it appear as though it is cracking open to reveal an inner radiance. He has lost more scales than I have. His arms are bare almost to the elbows, exposing slick, mossy looking flesh. Slowly, he lifts his head, gazing at Cyrus with veneration, and makes the effort to address him in mouth speech. Thank you, father. The priest pats him on the head, as he did Wele, but Dolocanto closes his eyes and accepts it. More than that, he savors it. To Dolocanto, this is the closest he will get to God or heaven, the closest he dares come to imagining freedom. Though his hope takes a shape. Hang on, I need to adjust this. Though his hope takes a shape I find no comfort in, I am glad he has it. As Dolocanto approaches the slag heap, Cyrus's eyes fix on me. Cessna, he exclaims, using the benefactor's name for me. I am glad you made it back, dear. The fountain is in terrible shape, I'm afraid. I'm sorry to ask you to clean it during your rest hour, but Anna, I say, doing my best to enunciate honor with swollen acid glands. Cyrus hands me the supply bucket. Inside is a hard-bristled brush used to scrub the white stone basin where the water falls, and an iron wand meant to probe the drain, which often clogs. I am so eager to attend my task, not the benefactor's task, but mine, that it is all I can do not to rush to the fountain. But if I do not eat now, I will not eat until next sunrise. I feed, then head for the fountain. Then I stop. I find Nwele still biting at the slag heap and rustle my fins at him. The dry air can barely sustain a whisper, but Nwele hears his name and looks up. I incline my head toward the chapel, perplexed. He follows me through the white halls, then out to the courtyard. At the tinkling of falling water, Nwele stops. His vertical slits widen, black almost eclipsing all the yellow in his eyes. I cannot help but smile. I had the same reaction years ago. Of course, the fountain cleaner before me, Aquadata, had been tasked by the priest to find a successor. Nwele I have brought with no permission. I may be punished, but cruel as the benefactors can be, time is crueler still. My chances to share the fountain's secrets are dwindling, as is Nwele's patience. One day he will rebel. I would not stop him if I could, but I will guide him while I can. As we kneel in the sand before the deep basin, grains lodge themselves between our scales. Nwele hisses. Then I take his hand and place it into the water. He gasps. Quicker than I can react, he plunges his head in. My fins flap with laughter. Slowly, I submerge my head too. Relief. Pure relief. Purer even than breathing the clouds, for here there is no lightning, no harvest, just cool water caressing my face. I allow Nwele a moment of silent rapture before fluttering my fins as fast as I can. Water ripples around us. The sound of its motion is shaped not only by my fins, but by thousands of minuscule etchings I and those before me have carved into the basin. Clearer than speech, we hear echoes. In the next life we'll be born with gills beneath an ocean without end. We cower before the acrid sky, but the world that was left scarred fears not. Why declare ourselves eternal when eras pass and epochs fade? When death is all that does not die, is there consolation in the thought in the next life we'll be born with gills? How low must one sink for the waters to rise, and how much salt can fill a lung before coral creeps over cool white bone and flesh unfurls in fresh decay beneath an ocean without end? How can one deny the night inked on the sky in clouds of carbon with every choked and labored breath? Will we insist it's morning yet as we cower before the acrid sky, when oil skins and the oceans burn in rancid rainbow flames? Surely in such sick light we'll see we have reveled in ruin till nothing remains but the world that was left scarred. As we dissolve into the waves, will anything like thought remain? Will our minds cry out, or will they calm as we realize life fears not? Fear not. Life will burst from what now rots, abandoning the sky. Change is unending as the sea. In the next life, we'll be born with bodies like ribbon, bodies like string, necklace-shaped with mouths full of beads. Luminescent limbs will trail through the ever-shifting dark. Fear not, for survival is a drifting away from the light, from the bones that weigh us down, from all that we were made. Life will burst from what now rots, begin again, begin then perish, giving way to beings bold and foreign to us now, familiar only in that they are. Abandoning the sky may feel like death, and we may die. What sacrifice can we withhold from the altar of what must be? Bodies and fate must now diverge. Change is unending as the sea, as the green glass waves forever lapsing and bleeding on the bones of the beach, as ghosts and futures dance in the depths. And the next life will be born with... Born with what? Nwele demands, eyes wide. Why does it end there? It never ends. I place my hand over Nuele's, bringing his palm to the bottom of the basin. With wondering fingertips, he explores the etchings. Feel the patterns? They repeat, cascade. There are lines we carry forward, then leaps in language, breaks in rhythm, things that change. I touch Nuele's cheek. You will go where I dare not, and I love you for it, child. But do not go without stories. They are our before and after. Ghosts and futures, says Nuele. Before I can tell him what it means to me, hearing my uncertain words in his strong voice, there is one scream, then many, the thick-tongued screams of the begotten. We pull our heads from the water and run. As we reach the sand before the chapel, I realize these are not cries of fear, but grief. One of our own is dying. I know it will be Dolocanto, the missing scales, the mossy skin. I have seen the signs before. I bear them myself. The death that greets Dolocanto will be my own, not terribly long from now. Because I am the eldest and Nuele is Nuele, the crowd gathered around Dolocanto parts for us. Only Avadia is still, kneeling by the dying elder. I sink beside her. What's happening? She asks, eyes wide with horror. What does it look like? Nuele snaps. He's dying. I put a hand on Evadia's shoulder. He is sick, child. We call it the Genesis. Her fins flutter in confusion. Genesis? A disease that returns us to what we were before the benefactors changed us. Dolocanto moans and lifts what remains of his right arm. Everything below the elbow has already been eaten away, and grayish-green dust is heaped by his side. Algae oozes from the gaps in his scales, creeping toward his shoulder. More slimy patches glisten on his chest and stomach. One eye is filmed over completely. This is the Genesis. Algae consumes the body it has been trapped in, then desiccates in the hostile air. Dolocanto's gaping mouth fights to form words. All his teeth are gone, and his tongue is green. He pleads. Someone get the priest, Nuele shouts. Then, dropping to Dolocanto's side, come on, old man. His words are brusque, but his tone is almost gentle. Don't try talking their way. Talk to us. Dolocanto's dimming eyes drift in my direction. Spera, he begs, fins moving fitfully. Final rites. I place a soothing hand on Dolocanto's forehead where the rot has yet to spread. Father Sirus will be here as soon as he can. The nictitating membrane over his visible eye flickers like a child. I want to go to heaven. You'll go. No. Dolocanto sobs, a horrible, choky sound low in his throat. Not us. Not this. And I know he means the spreading algae, the essence of what we are. He believes what the benefactors tell us. Before their intervention, we were nothing. How can lowly creatures like us aspire to the same afterlife? Algae creeps out of Dolocanto's mouth as he sputters and gasps. It has already spread up his neck, stifling his fins. He cannot speak, but his eye still pleads. This is what we are, I say softly. I do not know if we had language. I do not know if we had a purpose. I do not understand the soul. The story the benefactors tell may be true, but I will tell you another. I grasp Dolocanto's softening, rotting face in both hands. I ignore the warm, wet algae encroaching on my fingers, stinging the webs between them where there are no scales. I believe that we were ever and always ourselves. I believe water felt like music as it moved within us, and the tide pools sang with our shared vibrations, and there was joy. Both Dolocanto's eyes are gone now. He no longer gasps. He may be dead already, but I bow my head and recite the poem from the fountain. I am no priest, but I will give Dolocanto what last rites I can. When I reach the final stanza, Nuele joins in. Stunned, I fall silent, but Nuele forges on past the ending. He paints the next life in colors of fire. We will be born with claws and fangs. We will be born amid corpses of those who would harm us. We will be born into a world... Nuele falters. He turns to me, but I only gaze up at him, waiting. Then he thrusts a hand at Evadia. Her eyes shine as she takes it, rising to stand beside Nuele. She imagines the world that will be reached through Nuele's war, and it is beautiful. I will not live to see the poem's end. How fortunate none of us do. And that's the end of the story. Yeah, so if anyone has any questions or comments about that, I would love to hear them. Still have about, 25-ish minutes before I need to take off, so definitely some time to chat here. I can scroll back through the comments here to see what I missed. Let's see. Missed the beginning. Oh, okay, yeah. So Taylor is my best friend from high school. She was here for yesterday's stream, but apparently missed the beginning. So I'm glad you got to catch it this time, so you have the full context. This is a hard one to jump in, I feel like. Oh, Aunt Liz is here. Thank you. I'm glad you're here. Yvette Cattell waved. Hello, Yvette. Angie, hi, Angie. Yeah, I know Dad said he was going to send it to his sister group chat. Scott said, "Shut up, old man. I'm using this on Grandpa next time I see him." Yeah, don't do that. Can't recommend. Carolyn says, "Oop." Hi, Carolyn. Scott said, "My fins." Yeah, true. Okay, a little emoji. Memoria says, "I really love the power of stories and counter narratives." Yeah, no, that was really what I wanted to go for with the theme of this being hope is not passive. I really had to challenge myself to think, okay, what does hope as resistance look like? And, what is meaningful resistance, And for me, a lot of that, comes back to, I mean, just countering the narratives that marginalized people are told by society. Because, I mean, in the context of this story, it's very clearly drawing from, Spanish colonialism. And I was thinking about, Latinos in the present day because of the immigration justice bent of the anthology. So, a lot of what we're told, a lot of the narratives around colonialism is basically like, oh, you people were just savage heathens and you had nothing before us, you owe everything to the fact that you were colonized. And that's just not true. There was so much that came before, so much, beauty and history and art. And I think it's really important for, people to be able to, go back to that history and to, sort of remember that origin and to remind ourselves that, we are not what we were made into, that we have always had value and that we always were. So, countering that narrative within the story, was something that I wanted to do. That was sort of their, active resistance that I wanted to share here. Well done. Well done. Thank you. Susie says, I was enraptured. Thank you. Great word choice. Let's see, some claps and waves. Scott said, text yellow gold, text yellow gold, text yellow gold. Scott said, encore. My throat is too dry. I can't do that. Woo! Okay, that's pal. Yeah. Emoji from Taylor. I love the different forms of hope for different people. Yes, that was also something that I wanted to do because, I mean, hope is different for everyone. Resistance is different from everyone. So I wanted to make it clear that, for some people, it's the rebellion. For some people, it's more about the storytelling. For some people, and with religion especially, I wanted to be very nuanced in how I portrayed that because, I mean, yes, historically religion was used as a colonial tool, but at the same time, I mean, there are people, within marginalized communities who sort of had that religion thrust upon them who, are genuine believers themselves and find deep comfort and meaning in it to this day. And I think it's very important not to dismiss that and to understand that, that is hope for them and that has meaning and, regardless of the origins, like it is something that belongs to them if they want it, And so that was important for me to represent with the character of Dolo Canto. So yeah, keep speaking the truth. Yeah, thank you. Also, the world building was so lovely. Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, the world building is usually one of the hardest things for me in terms of a short story because I mean, you don't have a lot of words to play around with. You kind of just need to get what you need in there, and you need to get it in there fast. And it's so hard to really go somewhere interesting in terms of world building because if you're doing something unique, like you're going to have to do a lot of explaining. And if you don't have a high word count, like it's hard to explain like a new complicated thing in like a few short words, and it's hard to do it without just like dumping the details in randomly, and just doing info dumps. Like it's hard to balance the storytelling and the exposition and world building, and that's something I'm struggling with currently with my the current novel that I'm working on. I don't know if it'll be my next to be published because I have no idea if it'll be my next to be finished because it's very ambitious, but it's a fantasy novel, wizards in space, and it's about a cleric who has to choose between serving the goddess she's devoted her life to or standing against that goddess who has chosen to destroy the universe. So yeah, it's a very interesting sort of crisis of faith story, but the world building is so complicated because it has a very complicated magic system. There's 8 different planets. All of these obviously have a bunch of different cultures and relations to magic and religion, and I mean, it's a very complicated world, complicated story. So trying to balance out, the world building in that and making sure that I'm explaining enough about the world for people to know what is happening and not just be totally lost, but also not overwhelming people with details that they don't need to know right now. That balance has been so hard to find. And that's why I probably have like I mean, probably more than 20 drafts of just chapter one, just trying to strike that balance of like making it intriguing, telling a story, and also making sense and setting up things that come later. Like it's very difficult, but I have progressed past chapter one. Just this week, I finished a draft of chapter two. I'm starting on chapter three. I'm trying to just push myself forward and get a draft done. And then if I need to edit it, obviously I'm going to edit it anyway, you know? That's what revision is for. So right now I'm just trying to get the words on the page and we'll see where it goes from there. But yeah, let's see. As for the world building in Ghost and Future specifically, I mentioned earlier that there was something C related that I wanted to talk about after I shared the story and read the poem, and that is that the poem that is that they read in the fountain was originally it's not exactly the same, but a lot of it is taken directly from a poem that I wrote in college for a creative writing workshop I did, where we had an assignment to go. There was a museum that was like a block off campus, and it was like free on weekends. So we had to go to that museum and find an exhibition to write a poem inspired by. And I saw an exhibition called Ecosystems of Excess, and it was basically these two clear tubes, and inside the tubes there were like these like plastic like sea creature, like fantasy creatures, like all like entangled around with like ribbons and beads and like plastic bags that look like jellyfish. And it was really cool. And so, you know, I wrote that poem inspired by that theme of like ecosystems of excess and that idea of, you know, when we have polluted the world to the point that we cannot live in it, you know, what life is going to come next. And so when I saw the call for submissions for Hope is Not Passive, and I was thinking, you know, anytime I see a call for submissions for anything, I always dig around in like my old writing to see if there's anything I can like pull from, so I don't just start completely from scratch because I'm lazy. Unless I really have an idea right away. You know, usually I'd go digging through the drafts, and I found that poem, and I thought it really. I mean, the poem is, I mean, I don't know, maybe not the most hopeful, but just the idea of what comes next to me, like answering that question is a big part of what hope is being able to recognize that regardless of what happens now, something is going to happen next, and we have power to influence that. So, you know, I took that poem and sort of elaborated on that to make my world building, because I was sort of thinking, okay, you know, in the next life we'll be born with gills and all that. You know, what life is preceding that? You know, what is sort of the lead up to this, you know, poem? And so I sort of crafted this, you know, Spanish colonialism inspired climate dystopia to go along with it. Yeah. So I liked how your reading really embodied the characters. Thank you. Thank you, Carolyn. Yeah. I mean, I really enjoy the performance aspect of getting to read a story aloud. I mean, like Scott, you know, I did high school debate, I did some drama events, I did spoken word. And, you know, I talked about this in yesterday's live stream too, but because I have a lot of that like you know, oration experience, I'm always thinking about how my words on the page are going to sound out loud. You know, I think about the feel and the rhythm of them, and you know what it would be like to read them out loud. And I think it gives the writing like some energy to it. You know, I tend to use a lot of alliteration. I tend to use words that are like, you know, that they're just going to have a good sound to them. You know, that's always something that's in the back of my head as I'm writing, and it's something that I really enjoy doing. Scott asked, what part of the story was inspired by Chomper? I think Chomper has a lot of Nuele energy, you know? I think Nuele, if he was a bulldog, he would be biting everyone, and that's what Chomper is like. So, you know, I think there's some Chomper inspiration there. Okay, Memoria asks, who is your favorite character to write, and or which character do you resonate most with? I mean, I think Spera, the main character, I think I relate to a lot because, you know, she's the storyteller. She's not necessarily, you know, and she's not necessarily out there, you know, starting the revolution, but, you know, she's supporting in the ways that she can. And I mean, that's kind of where I'm at, honestly. Nuele is a little aspirational, I will say. Let's see. We can. Heart emoji from Valerie. Oh, thank you, Valerie. The old man saying he wanted to go to heaven made me emotional. Yeah, it was supposed to. I'm glad it worked. But yeah, no, I felt a little emotional myself at the end. I was like, oh, this is, you know, I think for me, the most emotional part in that last scene is when Mele is like, don't die talking their way, talk to us, you know, trying to like, you know, break him from like that colonial cage in his dying moments, and like, you know, reach out to the people who are there for him in the moment and that are caring for him. And, you know, I think I might have teared up writing it, honestly. Like, that really got me. And you dominated. Thank you. I think that's in reference to my debate years. I did. I was state champion in policy. No, not state champion in pantomime, though. Sadly, can never beat Scott's cross-dressing pantomime days. Big voice actor vibes. Well, thank you. Thank you. Erica would have watched this if it was an improv show instead. True. Erica couldn't make it because she's employed or something. I don't know. She works at a toy store, which a lot of fun. But yeah, no. Release the pantomime tapes. Yes, Scott, you need to. I don't know. Someone had to have filmed. Which one was it? Date Night. Date Night is the one that my debate partner Joseph Casella was in. That's the one I'm thinking of. I almost said Panto Crime because I remember the title of it first. And boo employment. So true. Boo employment. Yeah, no. Yeah, no. I mean, this story was, it was a lot of fun to write. I mean, it was definitely easier to write than like the current short story that I just like finished up because my grad school, Western Colorado University, every year they put out a new anthology with a different theme. I have to leave early, but this was great. Thank you so much for writing doing the dramatic. Yeah, of course, more. I'm so glad you can make it. Yeah. But yeah, no, like I was saying, my grad school puts out an anthology every year. When I was a student, the theme was feisty felines and other fantastical familiars. So, like magical cat stories, all kinds of magical animals. It was a fun time. The theme this year is superheroes, super problems. And I guess it's sort of like, like stars, they're just like us, but like superheroes with like normal everyday problems, like I can shoot lasers from my eyes, but I have to go to divorce court or something like that. That's the example I keep using because it's almost the premise I went with because I have a character that I haven't really done much of anything with who's he's a superhero but he's also a huge loser and he's been divorced 9 times. So I thought about doing something with that character, but I also wasn't sure if I was going to write anything anyway, because like I said, I've been trying to work on my wizard story. I didn't know if I wanted to like get into a short story at the same time. And I wasn't like super, super excited about the theme until I watched Spider-Man Brand New Day. And as good as the movie was, mostly why it made me want to write a story for this was because it reminded me of Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin. And I was like, ooh, I have an idea for a villain. And so the plot of my like superhero story that I'm planning to submit is basically that this villain is that there's a city on the moon and this villain has been terrorizing it for like 20 years. Everyone's trapped, but then he has a stroke and starts developing dementia. And the hero is able to capture him and is trying to like interrogate him and figure out like who he is, what he's done, to the city and everything like that. And that story is the perfect example of like trying to do too much in 5,000 words because the world building of like the city on the moon is complicated, like how and why they're superheroes, the villain's backstory, and then the hero, who's mostly the POV character, he also has the sidekick, his adopted daughter, who's going through her own angst. Like there's just a lot going on, and it was really hard to cut the words that I needed without cutting like the scenes that are moving everything along. So Ghost in Futures by contrast is like fairly effortless. Like once I figured out what I really wanted to do, like I had my outline, I worked from it. I had to cut some words, but nothing major. The superhero story, like a lot of false starts. That one was really hard. I don't know if it'll get accepted or not. I know from working anthologies on the other side, like how much has to line up perfectly for a story to make it into the anthology, even if it's really good. Like even from my year, I can think of half a dozen stories that I preferred to stories that made it into the anthology just because for one reason or another, they just weren't the perfect fit, Yeah, so let's see. Love the divorce court idea. Ha ha ha. Carolyn, that's funny. You should divorce Scott. I know you're not married yet, but you should divorce him. I'll be there for you. Scott said, Francia Man. True. I should have done Francia Man. That's funny. Yeah, Francia Man is like an OG character of mine. Like that. I was drawing comics of him in middle school, and I still have them somewhere. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Charlie says any excuse to talk about Green Goblin. Yes. Okay. Yes. I will take any excuse to talk about the Green Goblin. And I have been doing that for like a solid 3 weeks now. And I did it for like a solid like 6 months in 2021. I do remember the mini crash outs for that story. Yeah, my boyfriend would know. I was complaining about that. Carolyn should divorce Scott so we can marry Jesse. True. Yes. And then Carolyn can marry someone that is actually good and not Scott. Y'all play too much. You can't be talking like that, white baby. Yeah. Yeah, it is really nice. Krampus has agreed. That's funny. Yeah, no, it's been really nice having you guys here. It means a lot to have this kind of support. And, if there's any more questions I can answer, I'd be happy to. We have a few more minutes. And after that, I do have to take off because there's something going on in Anchorage. One of my friends from Latino Book Club is doing like an end of summer thing that I'm going to be going to. So that'll be a lot of fun. The story immediately gripped me. I love it. Well, thank you, Susie. I'm glad, that's something you really have to consider with anthologies is that you have to get people in immediately or because they're not going to read the rest. If you're, especially for like the anthology we did in grad school got, I think 350 submissions. And if you're reading through that many submissions, if something does not click for you in like the first sentence, maybe the first paragraph, if you're nice, I wasn't nice. You're not going to read the whole thing because you have 200, million other ones to get through. So it's out. It's out of the pile. You're moving on to the next. You're not really giving these stories the best possible chance. So, when you're writing a short story for an anthology, like you really do have to think like, what reason am I giving a reader to keep going, as opposed to, what is anything I could be doing that might like just get them to click off, just get them to stop caring. You have friends for once. Yeah, Scott, I do have friends for once. That's what happens when you join a book club. You make friends. It's actually really nice. Can't recommend it enough. I was plugging the book club to a new volunteer at Covenant House. For those who don't know, Covenant House is a youth homeless shelter that I volunteer at. It's literally like right across the street. And I've been going there for like the past year. I help out in the art room. I give them like writing advice. It's a lot of fun. And there's like 4 new volunteers because I think like the Jesuit volunteer corps like sent a bunch of people up. And the new girl who was around in my area, she's like half Peruvian. And she had mentioned wanting to read more books by like Latino authors. Like, well, like you got to come to book club, Let's see. You have friends for once. Which one of us was first? I mean, Scott's is saying number 1. Susie's is saying number 2. So I think Scott was first. From the marketing department, be sure to check out the links and buy the book. Yeah, they should be in the description. I'm pretty sure I put those in the description for both of these streams. Peru mentioned, yeah. No, there's a surprising Peruvian presence here in Anchorage. I was surprised by any presence of anyone in Anchorage when we first moved up here. But my very first interview that I ever did was with Espacio Latino, which is the name implies is a Latino organization here in town. And I forget what like the theme of like the episode they had me on was, but like it was me and then it was a troupe of Peruvian dancers. And I didn't know the dancers were going to be there. And I didn't know the interview was going to be live. And I didn't know it was going to be in Spanish. So I show up and the room is packed because people came to see the Peruvian dancers and they're talking to me in Spanish. I'm understanding, every other word. They're understanding like every other word and I have to be like, hey, like I can kind of understand Spanish. I cannot do an interview in it, like especially because I'm not prepared for it. And they were very cool, very accommodating. I just had to give short answers so they could translate. But before we got to that stage, like as people are just filing into this room and I'm sitting there and they're like fiddling with the camera, I'm like just trying not to cry because I'm so convinced I'm going to completely humiliate myself in my first ever interview. And then it just clicked for me that like, what, if I make it through this is gonna be a really funny story. And that just got me out of the depression. And I was like, okay, you know what, this is great. Actually, no interview I ever do is going to be this scary. And now I'm set for life. And truly that has carried me through this past year since my book has come out. It's just be like, you know what, at least I'm not doing an interview in Spanish when I don't speak Spanish. It could always be worse. Yeah. $2.50 for Peruvian Coke. Yeah, he's not talking about the drug. He is talking about Inca Cola because there was a end of summer Latino bazaar that I was a vendor at. And when John came to help and support, one of the first things I made him do was go get me a drink. And they had Inca Cola there. Apparently it was $2.50 a bottle. It basically tastes like a Big Red, like the gas station cream soda. Yeah. No, I like it. I still have the bottle. I have it from my like exotic drink container collection. I have like a Chinese coconut milk. I have a jarrito and I have that. I have something else, I think, but Kuromi sparkling water, like a Japanese one. Yeah. And Susie says, I'm reading my first book entirely in Spanish. Ooh, Cadaver Exquisito is a bad choice for. I haven't heard that one, but yeah. I mean, I don't know if there's ever a good choice for starting in a new language. It can, or not a new language, but it's always going to be hard. But I'm glad you're doing it. Very proud of you. Like, I mean, for my birthday, my boyfriend got me Delusion Defense in Russian, and it's hard enough for me to read like physical books in English with my eyes, like Russian too. Like I really have to allocate for the eye strain, but I'm very excited for it. And I do understand it for the most part. There's Inca Cola where, I don't know. I don't know. They have it in Anchorage now, apparently. I don't know where else you can get it. It was gross. No, it wasn't. I liked it. Pal says love Inca Cola. So apparently they have it in Iowa. The Kuromi one was medicine flavored. I guess John's talking about the Kuromi sparkling water. Yeah, it was grape flavored. He says it tastes like medicine, and he's studying to go to pharmacy school. So I guess we have to take his word for it. It's a horror novel about farming humans for meat. Ooh, okay. If it's the one I'm thinking of, I think I've heard of it in English. Yeah, tender is the flesh. Yeah, could be worse. Could be anything magical realism in Spanish. Yeah, 100 Years of Solitude. Yeah, there's some people who try to read it in Spanish for book club, and that was not easy for them. Tender is the Flesh. Yeah, people have been recommending that for the book club that I'm in, and we're currently in a vote to see if it wins out for October. I would have voted for it if not for the fact that someone suggested like The Witches of El Paso, and obviously, like, I had to vote for the one with El Paso in the title. I had to represent my family in that. So, yeah. So like I said, I do have places to be after this, so we are going to cut it right at 5:30, but it has been so wonderful to have you all here and to get to chat with you and to share this story. It's been such a meaningful experience, and I'm really glad that you all can be a part of it. So, thank you so much for coming. Goodbye.